Hi everyone. Just like in the last chapter, it feels like the things we've been discussing are once again starting to come true. If you want full breakdown, definitely check out my Dawn Dusk channel where I go deeper into all this. In this video, I want to talk about what's happening in Elbaf right now. Since Dory and Brogy were turned into devils through Im's dark magic, Elbaf is slowly being swallowed by darkness. At first glance, it might seem like a hopeless situation. But I don't think that's how Oda Sensei is reframing it. I believe he's drawing a parallel to the game. Othello. I mean, reverse. And if you ever played Othello, you know, while the board may be dominated by black in the early game, the more that happens, the greater the chance for white to make a comeback into the second half. That's exactly the kind of setup I think Oda Sensei is going for here. And the one who's going to flip the board back to white is Nika. What really caught my attention was how the giants caught between the devil transformed Dory and Brogy also turned into the devil automatically. This seems to follow the rule of the board game Othello. Have you ever played it? If you are not familiar, Othello is a two-player game where you each take turns placing black and white discs on the board. The goal is to have more of your color on the board by the end of the game. When you sandwich your opponent's discs between the two of your own, all the ones in between get flipped to your color. So in this case, the warriors from the giant warrior pirate who were sandwiched between the devilish Dory and Brogy here were flipped to black too, automatically becoming devils. And here where it gets interesting. If we apply the same Othello logic here, the reverse should also be possible. Right now, Elbaf's warriors have turned into a black devil army, but what if you surrounded them with two white forces? In theory, you'd flip back to white. So then, who would generate this white? It's gotta be Nika. Im's powers may seem bottomless and overwhelming, but Nika's abilities are pretty wild too. He can suddenly pull out the baseball bat and the helmet and start playing baseball, or turn a battle with Kaido into something out of Tom and Jerry. He can shift the entire tone and the stage of the fight at will. So if Im is turning the world into the game of Othello with devil powers, there's no reason Nika couldn't do the same. Just in reverse. And don't forget, Luffy's side also has Bonnie, who was once able to transform into Nika in the Egghead arc. That means if both Luffy and Bonnie transform into Nika and sandwich the devil army from the both sides, it could flip the giants currently under the Im's control back to white. In other words, turn them into warrior of liberation. It actually seems like Nika has a special ability tied to rhythm, something that literally frees people through his unique beat. Don dot dot dot, don dot dot dot. And you know, how the people's eyes comically pop out of their heads when they see him. They see Nika. That's probably the effect of Nika's free-spirited power at work. Now, Bonnie being able to transform into Nika wasn't just because of her own ability, it's likely because Nika was right there beside her. That presence mattered. Plus, lately, Oda Sensei's been shining a spotlight on the younger generation like Momonosuke and Bonnie, and in both cases, Luffy was the one supporting them. So in this time, it's possible we'll see something similar. With that in mind, maybe Luffy's influence as Nika will eventually lead to Column becoming Nika form, white form, and together, they'll free the giant warrior pirates from the devil control. Or, it's also possible that Loki, who calls himself the Sun God, might be the one to take on that role instead. Now, let's talk about something else. The title of this chapter, Kokuten Shihai. Here. The pronounced is just dummy reverse, but if you take those kanji literally, the first, this one, Kokuten means turning black, and Shihai means domination or control. Their opposites would be Shiroten Kaiho, like this. Shiroten, turning white, and Kaiho, liberation. So the title itself is hinting at Nika. It's a symbolic. I actually talked about this in the previous Dawn Dusk video, where I predicted that the final phase of the battle for the One Piece would come down to the 4 key characters. 4 key players in this case. And if that's the case, it lines up perfectly. 2 on the side of black, I mean control, and 2 on the side of white, liberation, or freedom. In the end, I think it will come down to the battle between those who want to dominate and those who want to set people free. And if you think about it, that's exactly how the board look at the start of the game Othello, reverse. Right now, Elbaf is in the total chaos, completely swallowed by darkness because of Imu's devil contract. But I'm hoping that with Luffy's becoming Nika, he'll be able to flip that darkened board back to white. And when that moment comes, I'm calling it now. The chapter title will be White Shift Liberation. Shiroten Shihai Kaiho. Like this. Next, let's take a look at insanely powerful haki that Imu unleashed in this chapter. It was so strong, it reached all the way past Oru's castle, which means it likely overwhelmed a huge number of the people across a massive area. Honestly, it might not just match the scale of Shanks' haki we saw back in Wano Kuni. It could even surpass it. Now sure, part of the reason Imu has that kind of power could just be natural talent as a ruler, but I think there's more to it. Something hidden. Remember what Kaido said? Haki だけが全てを凌駕する. Only haki can conquer all. So Imu really is ruling the world. It's probably not just thanks to their devil powers. This insane level of haki is probably a big part of it too. And then there's Yarul, who seems to sense Imu's haki from a distance. His expression was kind of intense, like he was remembering something. It makes me wonder. Maybe Yarul's encountered Imu's haki before. After all, he once said he's into older women, in Japanese, 年上の女性. Maybe when he was younger, there was someone like Gunko who had been possessed by Imu, and that experience stuck with him. Also, there's the incident at Oru's castle 14 years ago that still hadn't been fully explained by Oda-sensei. Apparently, Loki killed Harold, but if you watch Yarul closely, he doesn't seem angry at Loki at all. In fact, he even acts like he's trying to protect Loki. We already know from Soma's comment that Harold was connected to the God's Knight, so maybe back then, one of the God's Knights was sent out to Elbaf, and through that person, Imu appeared in front of Loki or Yarol. And through that person, Imu appeared in front of Loki and Yarol. And maybe some ability that Loki has that we haven't seen yet, they were able to fend him off from the Oru's castle. That could also explain why Satan warned the Marines not to go to Elbaf. There's something serious he doesn't want them getting involved with. And as for the Straw Hat Pirates, we saw the Robin trying to escape from the thorny vines, and right after that, we got a shot of the old library. Personally, I think Belo is going to be a key to protecting that place. So if you are interested in that theory, check out my other video where I go into more detail. Now, something that stood out to me. Somers and Kiringham seems to receive Imu's voice almost like telepathy. But what's interesting is that they responded out loud. That caught my attention because when Saturn spoke with Im right before his death, he communicated through telepathy as well. So this suggests there's a clear difference in ability between the 5 Elders and the God's Knights. I actually touched on this in my previous video, so check that out if you haven't seen it. Also, what I found notable to refer to Imu. In the English version, it was translated as the Great One. And while that's not bad interpretation, There's really no perfect one-to-one translation for ontai in English, so let me break it down from the native Japanese speaker point of view. And lately, I've seen people explaining Japanese using results from Google Translator and Google Researches or even ChatGPT. And some have said ontai is a warm or friendly nickname. But honestly, it doesn't fully match the nuance, and it doesn't line up with my own experience in Japan. To be completely honestly, I've never actually heard someone use ontai in everyday life in Japan. It's super rare, even in the manga or novels. If I had to give examples, I'd mention the former Meiji University baseball team and baseball coach Shimaoka Yoshiro-san. He was affectionately called ontai. Also, the owner of a local izakaya in my hometown was sometimes called that too, ontai. But even in those cases, it wasn't just casual or friendly. There was always a strong sense of respect behind it. So when Somers and Kiringham use the word ontai for imu, it's less about familiarity and more about reverence, acknowledging imu as someone truly above them. And in this chapter, we saw even more of imu's terrifying abilities. They were able to summon weapons at will using the magic circle and even transform the giants into demonic versions of themselves. But here's the thing. The magic circle Imu used the semi-transparent and seems different from the abyss we've seen when the five elders or God's Knights appear. The five elders only use their own yokai transform powers, and God's Knights fight using their devil fruit abilities. So the fact that Imu can not only summon objects free from this translucent abyss, but also transform others into devil, suggests that this is a unique ability only Imu possesses. At first glance, Imu's powers seem unbeatable, but like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I think one of the few things that can stand against them is the freedom of Nika's fighting style. Back when Gunko was still under Imu's control, she mentioned Nika as something she feared. Looking back, it really feels like this devil power instinctively rejects Nika. Like Nika's very existence threatened it. And let's not forget Haki. That could be another key. In fact, we saw the Haki Joy Boy left behind was powerful enough to instantly push the five elders who had appeared through the abyss all the way back to Marijoa. Even Imu was visibly shocked by that. So between Nika's freedom and the overwhelming force of Haki, we might be seeing the beginning of the way to counter Imu's seemingly invincible powers. By the way, I couldn't help but laugh at the last page. Did you catch that even the mother Muma had quietly been turned into devil too? Now here's where it gets interesting. The concept of mother might actually be tied to Imu as well. There's hidden wordplay. If you adapt the Straw Hat Pirate's total bounties, it actually forms Haha Imu, which can be read as Mother Imu. Seriously. And remember what Pedro said. That the world right now is still its pre-dawn state. In that sense, Imu could be seen as the mother of the night, the one who created this dark world. In Japanese, when a parent wants their kid to go to bed, they often say, "Hayaku nero na." Go to sleep already. Nero na. And that just so happens to sound exactly like Nerona. Nerona Imu. Imu's surname. It's a perfect fit for someone who wants to keep the world in darkness. Oda Sensei has even said in the interviews that the opposite of adventure is mother. And sure enough, when you look at the Straw Hat Pirates, pretty much all of their mothers are either dead or completely absent from the story. So both symbolically and literally, the one standing in the way of their journey is Haha Imu. Mother Imu. Alright. There's a lot more I've noticed, but I'll be going deeper into all of it in the upcoming Dusk video, and also sharing more details on my Patreon page. So if you are still hungry for more information or more translation, stay tuned on those platforms. Also, I do professional work related to translation and marketing, and lately I've been helping out a lot of creators who started Japanese language YouTube channel. So if you are interested, feel free to reach out to me on the Instagram or by email. Alright, that's it for now. See you in the next video.